It's Talk Funny. If I agreed with Mark Bailey, we would both be wrong. And now, Mark Bailey.
Welcome back to another edition of Talk Funny. We have 300,000 listeners in India alone. So with that being said, namaste, mera naam Mark hai. Uska naam Steve hai.
Hey.
Yah hai Talk Funny. How you doing, Steve Howard?
I'm doing good. It's been a while.
Yeah. Let's get started on the cops. How much time we have? There was one episode in June. There's one June and October. I was stopped 12 times in 8 days in both months. And we found out later that it was because of police training. But because of that, I've actually got a bit where I say, you know, the first time cops stopped me, I thought it's kind of weird. We get to the eighth time cops stopped me. I insulted all their moms. Ninth time cops stopped me. I wish I had a knife. Because, you know, I understand driving while black and the rage. By the 12th time, you're like, no, you're not doing this. Are you serious? And they're like, what? It's the first time they've stopped you. And they're like, what? Why? Why are you so angry? Don't you people talk? Don't you guys talk?
So maybe now all the trainees know that, you know, as soon as if you see Mark Bailey, immediately stop him.
Yeah, you're going to have some fun stories. Another thing with cops is that they'll say, in the States and Japan, they'll just say, look, you know you did it. And we know you did it. Just confess. It'll make it easier. What they don't say out loud is for us to convict you.
And I should mention that at our last show, we had some fun with a retired cop friend of mine.
Oh, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
He still thought he was the cop. And I said, you know, actually, we could detain you. How does that feel?
Yeah. Cops don't drink on the job.
So 99% conviction rate, people may not know, in Japan. So once you confess, it's done.
Yep.
And they will keep saying, look, you probably didn't do it, but if you just confess, it'll go faster. For us. For you, might take 10 to 15 years. But we just want to put this case away. It's just a piece of paper.
Might be a suspended sentence, or you might do 4 years in prison.
Yeah. And, you know, people see my act on stage. I complain about the wife a lot. Recently, I'm watching Columbo episodes and McCloud episodes and Murder, She Wrote episodes. And the thing I keep remarking on now, from my different vantage point, my vantage point is from the guy that wants to get away with it.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It used to be from the cops. Well, of course they would ask that question. And the suspect will say in the series, he'll say something like, you guys are back again? I thought we were done. I thought you and I were done. But you guys ask a lot of questions. Yeah, because we're trying to find this missing person. Yeah, I already told you everything. I thought it went well. Yeah, but you're not coming back, right? Well, we might come back. Why? Because you don't want us to. And so, and I'm thinking from the vantage point of the guy that wants to get away with it, these pesky cops are asking a lot of questions. What clothes was she wearing? Like, I noticed what she wears.
Yeah, why isn't there a TV show called, you know, Alibi the Married Guy Wrote, you know?
There's a series, I forget the name of it, maybe on Netflix. It's about women that kill their husband, right?
Yeah.
And women watch it all the time. And then they're always saying, well, what did he do? What did he do? Why don't we have a Netflix special? What did she do? What did she do? It's not what she did. It's what she wouldn't stop yapping about. You know, you got to pay the tax bill. I know. It's the end of the month. This is the beginning of the month. You got to pay it. I know. You better pay it. I got it. I'm going to pay it. You haven't paid it yet. It's not the deadline yet. You better pay it before the deadline. I know what a deadline means, bitch. You better pay it. I got it. You better pay it. I got it. Why are you nagging me? And I asked girls before, I'm like, why do you nag your boyfriend and your husband? And they always say, well, if we don't do that, if we don't keep reminding him, then he won't do what we want him to do. And I said, so it's passive-aggressive bullshit, right? It's passive-aggressive behavior. They're like, yeah, but we have to keep saying that. I'm like, actually, you don't.
You'd be surprised how much you don't say when you're on Xanax or antidepressants.
Are you on Xanax?
No. I'm just saying, I think a lot of these women, their anxiety problems would go away if...
Yeah. And so I'm watching Columbo, and it's really... To me now, it used to be funny when he would just stop at the door and go, scratch his head and go, one more thing, sir. You mentioned that you were sharpening your pencil. Well, we searched the house. We had a search warrant, and you don't have any pencils. I'm just saying. He said, what does that have to do with how I abducted her and threw her in the lake? I mean, but now I'm watching it. It used to be humorous. Now I'm watching it. I'm like, Columbo, just leave. Shut the door. I don't care if this Columbo episode, I wish it would be 8 minutes. But we didn't find anything. The end. That's a happy ending for me. We didn't find her, but we didn't implicate you.
Well, that's friends of mine in America ask me, the murder rate in Japan is really low, and I'm always like, well, they don't do autopsies very often in Japan. It's kind of like if they find a dead body and it looks like natural causes or the person committed suicide, there's no autopsy, which is probably why the murder rate is lower in Japan than other places.
Right. And when you're watching Columbo and these other things or in real police investigations, like, you ask a lot of questions. It's almost like you're trying to find her. Yeah. Did you ever talk to her?
Yeah.
Because if you ever met her, you would not be looking for her anymore. You'd understand exactly why, not me, why somebody would have it in for her.
Yeah, or the what was the British lady, the guy killed her and then buried her on his balcony with her hand standing up. And funny enough, the cops caught him, and then they were in his apartment, and they were going to arrest him. And he said, "Well, wait a minute, can I get my shoes real quick?" "Oh, sure." And then he escaped and was on the loose for 7 years before they finally captured him again. But yeah, guy just murdered someone. "Oh yeah, you can try on your shoes or get your shoes. I'm sure you're not going to run away or anything."
Let me write that down. That might be helpful in the future. Disclaimer: everything said on this podcast is in jest. We're comedians.
Yeah.
At least we think we are.
Yeah.
And Steve's in a really good mood for marriage right now, so it's going to get dark.
Let me just bring our lawyers in real quick too.
You know the story. You were there. I think you were in the audience. It was Koala Cafe.
Oh yeah.
And I was doing my famous joke, "What's the difference between my wife and onions?" I'm going to cry when I cut up the onions. And there was a plainclothes police officer in the audience, and she came up to me, and she was really concerned. And I said, "Did you see, it's a comedy show. It says comedy show in big letters." And she goes, "But you can't do that." And I said, "Yeah, but you're my alibi." I mean, if it happened now, I mean, not that it would, but if it happened now, it's not me. I'm just talking about it. What are the odds? She goes, "No, she was from Family Services." She said, "You can't really joke about that." And I said, "Well, isn't it a free country?" "Oh, wait, I'm in Japan." What am I saying? It's a free country. No,
You should have told her.
Free country.
You should have said, "Well, don't worry, because I'm not going to confess to it anyway. I'm not going to sign anything."
Or I could just say, "Yeah, I'm not suicidal, by the way." I can also say, it's a joke. It's a metaphor. Joking about killing my wife is a metaphor for how I really want to kill cops. So she shouldn't be worried, but you should.
And of course,
buy you a coffee.
And if you did it in France, and then came back to Japan, they'd put you in a mental hospital and everything would be fine. But
yeah,
might put you on TV. In fact.
Okay, I had a thing about people that I work with, all foreign teachers of English, and they've gotten so used to lying to their students that they lie to their coworkers, right? And I don't even have to hang out in the lounge, but I just want to decompress before I go to class. It's really hot outside or it's really cold outside. And you have a guy telling you a story. There's one really small, thin, bald guy, total wimp, right? And he was telling the story. Doesn't matter what the political point was, but he said, "I was in a bar and I heard this guy say some stuff, and I went over to him and I said, you S the F up right now. You S the F up right now, or I'll beat your butt, right? I'll beat your ass." And then I sat down. He sat down. He goes, "Then I sat down, and the guy left." That never happened. I said, what does this guy look like? He's like, "Well, he looked like an ex-football player, and he was really drunk." Yeah, that didn't happen. He would beat your ass. Or he was waiting for you to leave and go down the stairs, and he's going to beat your ass. That never happened. There's a lot of these, and we'll have a bunch of these. A guy that we know, he's come to our shows, but he'll make up stories. And when I run them back through my semi-Jewish autistic mind, I'm like, that never happened. One of his stories was, I said it was hot. This was last year. I said it was hot. It was like 102 degrees at our university the other day. And he goes, "Actually, it was 108 degrees." And I said, "Well, the stats said 102.
Dead instantly.
How's it 108? And he said, "Well, I talked to a teacher. She went to her car. She left the thermometer in her car." As you do. And then she went to her car. I said, "The car that's been sitting in the hot sun for 9 hours." Yeah. And it was 108. And I said, "Yeah, that's inside a metal structure for 9 hours. That's not the air temperature." Right? And he's like, "No, but so it's 108. And I said, "But we're not all sitting in cars all day for 9 hours. That would be idiotic." So, like I said in the first damn place, 102 degrees.
Yeah, I mean, 106, I think your body completely shuts down and you pass out. So.
And he was saying there's a famous DJ on the air, and he's a friend of mine, and the same gaslighter said, "Yeah, he slandered me on air, and then I called him up, and then he retracted it on air." And I said, well, what did he say? Well, he said that my plays were not any good. And I said, well, so how's that slander? And so I said, I was in radio. We don't do retractions on air. It sets us up for legal liability. And I said, that never happened. What time did he say this? And he goes, it's 8 p.m. on the radio. And I said, well, that's not even his shift. That's not possible. So a lot of stuff, people just making things up. Do you know a comedian named Jim Florentine?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites. Totally. Yeah. God, he's always in a bad mood. I love it. And he used to be in, people that don't know, he was in Crank Yankers. He was in Revenge on Telemarketers. Telemarketers, I forget the name of the album. But telemarketers would call him up and be like a lady, like, have you thought about reverse mortgage? He's like, yeah, I'm just on the toilet. He's from New Jersey. I'm just on the toilet, but I was waiting for you to call. I'm really glad you called. And yeah, I'd really like to do it. Reverse mortgage. And she's like, oh, maybe I could call back. No, I really want to talk about it now. Hang on. Plop, plop. And they hang up and they cross him off, right? But now he has a podcast called Everybody is Awful. And he does... One of his segments is Yelp reviews, which I agree with him. I don't like you taking a small business, mom and pop, and trying to ruin the business because you had a bad experience. Tell them. You probably get a free pizza or something. But don't go online and ruin them, right?
Yeah.
And he has another segment called That Never Happened. So it's all these moms, these woke moms, and they'll get on and they'll say, I was hanging out with my 4-year-old the other day, and he said, Mom, how can we get rid of toxic masculinity? He goes, that never happened. That never happened. Have you heard that?
Yeah, and there's the opposite, the conservative version. It's like this super long homily where at the end, the conservatives were recycling, decades before you were, and it's like, I've read those, and it's always the same tone, the exact same style of writing. I'm like, the same guy's making these stories up and putting them up there on Facebook or whatever.
Yeah, there's another one where, and this never happened. Jim Florentine, I highly recommend, especially the Yelp reviews and his This Never Happened. Just reading Twitter and stuff, right? The woke mom, she said, we were second in line. There were 32 people standing in line at the grocery store. And my 7-year-old daughter looked back and noticed that a black woman at the back of the line kept looking at her watch. Looked like she was in a hurry. So my daughter went back and said, you can come with us and we'll pay for your food. No, that never happened. It didn't happen. Your mom is in a hurry, too, because she has to make crap up on Twitter. She has to hurry up and write her BS gaslighting posts. That never happened. But it's like, why do they do that? They do that because I'm such a good parent.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me of, I think it was when George W. Bush was president, and there was a bunch of liberals that were making these sort of fake websites. There was one called, it was whitehouse.org, and they would just put these ridiculous things up there about, George Bush said that George W. Bush said he's gonna nuke Russia next month, and they said what was happening in the comments, the conservatives, some of them would believe this, and they'd write, oh my, I can't believe George would do that, And eventually what happened was the really smart conservative politicians noticed that some of the conservative their constituents were believing this, and so they started hiring these liberal writers to write these fake stories because that would draw voters. So it was this weird thing because these liberals that started doing it as a joke suddenly started getting paid a lot of money to do it, and so they started writing a lot of the fake news and stuff.
Right.
But it's probably gone full circle now with woke and liberals, I imagine, as well.
Another gaslighting colleague of mine, you can lie and stuff, but I don't know why it bothers me, but it does bother me because I run these stories. I like stories. I love good stories. Yeah. And I run them through my head, and I go, wait, what? Whoa, that doesn't sound right. Another one was, I don't know, we brought up Frankie Valli for some reason in our break at school. And one guy said, he's from California. And he said, my mom dated one of the Four Seasons. Now, they're based in New Jersey. And I looked up all of their tour history. They went to California twice, and it was one day only, both times. So he said, my mom dated one of the Four Seasons. I said, it wasn't Frankie Valli? He goes, no, it was one of the other ones. Was it the drummer? At the time, I just rattled off the names. I knew the musicians' names. He goes, no, it wasn't them. Was it him? I don't know. I don't know who it was, actually. I'm like, well, how long did she date him? About 5-6 months. I said, do you know where they're from? Do you know where they live? They live in New Jersey. That's your mom. You said your mom spent her whole life in California. Yeah, she did. There was no internet then. How did they date?
Was your mom schizophrenic by chance?
He's like, is it possible that really never happened? And he goes, what do you care? Well, I don't know. You brought it up and you asked me what I thought. So I thought you wanted to hear what I thought.
And obviously he's being insensitive to your autism when it comes to stories, right?
Yeah, I should actually say, you're triggering me.
Yeah,
I'm actually a protected minority.
I'm going to run this story through my head for months now because...
I have that problem where they'll tell a story. Oh, yeah, another one. The same guy that said, S the F up to that never happened at the bar. He said, I hate cops. I said, okay, you had me and I hate cops. All right. And he said, I was in a car one time. I was in the passenger seat. And the cop walked up, and the driver wasn't a suspect, but he didn't have ID. So the cop drew his gun and pointed at me and said, show me your ID, or I'm going to kill the passenger. And I said, no, he didn't. It did not happen. He goes, how do you know it didn't happen? I said, well, you could have been a kidnap victim. You could have been kidnapped against your will, and he's not talking to you. Why would... Steve, answer my question, or I'm going to destroy this computer. What do you care?
Also, wasn't that almost a scene in the movie Things to Do When Dead in Denver? Wasn't that roughly?
Probably, yeah. Maybe that's where he got it.
Yeah, that's because that was part of the plot. They were dressed up as police officers, and he told the guy to show his ID, and the guy refused, and he shot him.
That's probably where he got it.
Yeah.
I said, that would make no sense. And he goes, yeah, but cops make no sense. But I said, on Earth, that makes no sense. If I want the suspect to comply with me, I will threaten his life.
Yeah.
I won't threaten the person in the passenger seat. I don't know who you are. And you could be a kidnapped victim. You could be an innocent person. Mm-hmm. But I know you're not an innocent person because you're wasting my time gaslighting me now. So I wish he had shot you. But cops, have you ever heard that? Even Black Lives Matter? Yeah, he shot the passenger. No, he shot the guy who's resisting arrest. He shot what the cops thought was the perp.
Yeah, I mean, even when it's a mistake, or they generally have something, a probable cause why they did that, at least,
We support Black Lives Matter. Maybe don't resist arrest. But anyway, how dare you, Steve? And
I'm black, by the way.
And apparently Brazilian as well.
Yeah. Dark-skinned Brazilian.
Your family would be surprised.
Who speaks fluent American English.
You sent to 23andMe and you sent your DNA, and you said, I think I might be Brazilian. And they're like, wow, news to us. But
well, I actually am half Irish, so I could be Brazilian.
Oh, there's a swarthy part of, they call them Black Irish.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like a cop going, Steve doesn't have his ID and he's driving, so the cop grabs his kitten and puts a gun to the kitten and says, I'll kill the kitten. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to wrap that up for this episode. Mark Bailey, Steve Howard on Talk Funny.